My guest tonight, rocker, black belt, heartthrob. The human Jimi Hocking in the background right now, the 30th anniversary of his album. The song is Quicksand. I actually pulled it from Rage, and he was looking raging. You should have seen his hair. The Envy Marshall Show, where anything could happen, and it usually does. Stay tuned right till the end for a live performance from the human Jimi Hocking. Enjoy.
Walking through the gig, I'm talking to my friend. He knows about a big sound. I think I know the score when I see you at the bar. Come around.
Merch company.
Well, the merch company.
They did a run of them. They were a run thing, like they wouldn't just do them. They were like how many,
You don't mind if I vape?
No.
How are you, Jimmy? Good to see you.
I'm well, Envy. How are you?
I'm good.
Vaping away.
What's that?
I said you're vaping
away.
I so vape.
Envy Marshall Show. So bluesman, guitarist, one of the best known guitarists in Australia.
Because all that crazy stuff I do on stage.
Father.
Yeah.
Entertainer.
Oh my God.
Man of charisma.
It sounds great on
Thanks
paper.
for coming to my house.
I love your house.
Being 1.5 metres away from me, aren't we doing...
I know.
But we're being good.
We're doing it well. We're setting a good example to the people out there who aren't listening. I don't know.
They will be listening. I will force it down their throats until they listen. I will.
I'm glad.
So it's good to see you. So what's been happening? How are you handling this whole... I look like purple elephant in the room. How are you handling the whole number 19?
It's a brave new world, as you know. And for people in our industry, of course, the rug has been just pulled out from under our feet, so nobody really has a clue what's going to happen next and how long it's going to take. So there is a certain air of unsettled people and people in dire straits, maybe financially. So me personally, I'm in a good situation.
Great.
I had a little bit of money in reserve, so we're just kind of.
You were smart.
We're eating that money.
How does money taste?
Yeah, it's a little bit off. But we're ploughing on. I had a bunch of students, and for the most part, when school stopped, a lot of those students understandably didn't want to do face-to-face lessons. That made sense. We were just talking off air about the idea of web lessons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I know it's a great idea, but for music and the tactile interchange that happens between two people, where you just like put your hand there, listen, I'll play it to you. No, not like that. It's very difficult. I find it's very difficult to do that on the web.
Yeah.
So I haven't done a lot of that. Even though I like the idea, I haven't found it to be as straightforward as you'd think.
I've had coaching with you, and I see what you mean. Like sitting down with an instrument versus maybe playing an instrument on like a Logic or something. It's similar to that. Like it's a virtual world of music.
Yeah.
So does that mean that we have to adapt to survive, or does that mean, do you feel like it's going to come back?
Well, my guess is as good as anyone's at this stage.
What do you think?
My guess is that it will come back. But unlike industries that can say, okay, Monday we start work, let's all go back to work, boom, the music industry isn't made of that stuff. So, like in the band that I play in, the Screaming Jets, we had a big tour lined up. Of course, when it all fell over, we have cancellations to deal with and logistics to undo.
And this is stuff that's basically, for people that don't understand the industry, already been paid for.
That's right.
Yeah.
So there's refunds to be had or part thereof. There's a lot of stuff going on. And we can't just say, well, we'll do it again in August. We don't know, because we don't know what's going to happen in August, for example.
Yeah.
And having said all of that, when we come to rebook a lot of this stuff, availabilities of venues, some will probably go out of business.
Right.
I suspect there's going to be a lot of reshaping of the how and where it's done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a bigger question than will you just reopen the doors of your shop and start trading again. So it's tricky, and that's at the Screaming Jets level. That's at a touring level with flights involved and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
At a more grassroots level, people who have got smaller venues and acoustic shows and stuff, they live in a different kind of world of uncertainty, and some of whom have said to me, this could be the end of me because I can't afford to go this far backwards for this many months.
And the Blues Machine, Jimi Hocking's Blues Machine, you were very busy. Like I noticed up until now, like you were every effing weekend, you were you were playing,
Well,
right?
I got kids envy, so I don't know why, but they keep eating. They keep.
Why won't they stop eating money?
Leave the mini bucks alone. So I'm one of these people that's busy all the time because I feel like if I'm not being busy, I'm maybe moving backwards, and I don't like that feeling. It's not rational. Don't look for a rational idea in there. But I might have to change the way I do things anyway. But you are quite correct. My little blues band is constantly working. We live in a very, not cheap and cheerful, but we're not like a big production to put on. There's a big Sunday afternoon blues scene around Melbourne and a lot of other places too. And people expect there to be just a band in the corner, sort of like punching out some cool tunes. And it doesn't have to be a major concert environment. So that's a great bread and butter thing that I do, and I love doing it, of course, as well, along with the solo acoustic work and then playing for other people, which I do quite a lot of as well. I've played for you, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, you were in my band.
It was amazing, by the way. Let's do it
You
again soon.
were so much fun. I love how you just didn't remember. You're like, wasn't I also in your band?
Yeah,
I'm
wasn't
like, I think so. I was pretty drunk. No. That was a great night.
That was a great night, and I really enjoyed that. So I hope we get to do that again. But like your good self, when you're looking at what you might be able to do next, you can't even make up a draft because it's like, well, I don't know, because we don't know what the parameters are going to be when we come back into business and who's going to be there. What will people want to do? Will they want to go out? Will they be holding on to their money? I suspect so.
Would you, say, for example, ScoMo, our Prime Minister, for those listening overseas, if he was like, all right, screw it, let's just do a big rock show and everyone can go out and 1 week only and the Screaming Jets are playing and these people are playing and let's just do it, F the rules. Would you just be like, would you say yes at the moment, or would you still be like, oh no, because of COVID, like I don't want to? So where are you at with this whole thing? Which side are you in? Do you think it's a real threat and it's, or are you like, oh, these rules, man? Like,
I understand that people have got a lot of angst about the government laying down the law and saying you can't go out, yada, yada, yada. I get that. Because I come from a bit of a hippie background, all through my 20s. So I understand the anti-establishment reaction that people would have. I kind of had a little bit of it. But my father-in-law was a GP. And, of course, at the start of this thing, he was talking about the fact that it was just like a bad cold. And, look, we shouldn't get panicked about this thing. And as time progressed and he was reading more about the medical stuff and the numbers, he started to get a little bit more alarmed about it. And so did I, as a trickle-down effect.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I'm not suggesting I have the answer and I know what's going on. But looking at the figures of what's happening in highly populated areas like America, look at New York. I mean, it's a disaster in those areas. So on one hand, Australia is sparsely populated, so that's worked out to be a plus for us. But on the other hand, because we had instances like people coming back from holidays overseas, some nitwits on the peninsula who decided that they didn't need to,
bloody nitwits. They're everywhere.
Well, they spread a significant amount of the germ around.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a politician, so I'm not about to say, here's what I think and it's true. I merely have an opinion. But I can tell you, I wish I had more information that I could rely on.
Yep.
Because in this time of information being so readily available, the question is this legit information or is it bullshit?
Yeah.
What am I reading here?
So the boys, say for example, your band, so Paulie, Scotty, you, Chloe, so except for you, they're all like, yeah, let's just do it. There's a big show. Say for example, I don't know, Kiss going to come out again. I don't know where we're going to open for. They're going to come out again, and you're like, they're like, we got one weekend, we can do it, and all the boys are in. Are you in, or are you sort of like, listen, no, it's not safe.
I'd need a lot more information. How's it going to work? How's it going to run? Where are we going to be? I don't know. I'm pragmatic on one hand. Like I said, I've got kids, and that becomes a factor.
Right.
It tweaks your whole thinking.
Right.
Because one of my kids has a bit of asthma now and then, so it's like, well,
yeah, you got to be careful.
Got to be careful about that. So a lot of those things, and parents will understand out there, that is one of the things that changes the way you look at a lot of equations about what you do.
You're cautious, and that's fine.
Yeah. Had you have asked the 29-year-old Jimi Hocking?
Yes.
What?
You mean the 29-year-old Jimi Hocking that I literally sat and had a drink with because your pictures at the SB. The SB is obviously a big hotel in St Kilda in Melbourne, which is closed down. And I think there was a big $100 million sale that was about to go through, which went down with a lot of other clubs locally. So I'm seeing it. It's like every other day, it's like this place is closed and this place is closed and this place is closed. So I love what people are doing in relation to sort of moving towards these drive-in gigs. Have you heard of those?
Yeah, I saw a little bit of one the other day. Even in America, I saw Keith Urban do a little bit of it, right?
Oh.
It's like, yeah, I get it. It's cool, you know.
Well, if you got Nicole Kidman bloody funding it, you'd be all right. Hey, I wish I married Nicole Kidman. I'd be fine.
I think I met Nicole briefly back in the day when I was hanging out with somebody in Sydney, and she wouldn't remember that. But it's funny to see where everybody ends up.
Yeah.
You know. So
where'd you meet Nicole Kidman? That's interesting.
I think it was at a mutual friend's place who was involved in film, and
you weren't at one of those satanic rituals at Stanley Kubrick's house.
That's what it was. So I was there in a lap covered in oil, and she had the whips, and they were filming some things. I don't know. But you know, what stays in a cult goes in a cult. Right. I don't know, something like that.
You hang around later, or the next full moon, you can come over, invite you.
Every full moon at my place.
So interesting. So like you've got a rich history. Like I literally just came into this industry recently, so I've been lucky enough to work with people like you. So I guess it's very interesting to talk to people who have been in the industry for a very long time and have seen such a massive shift in what's going on. Like, what advice do you have for, musicians who have just gotten into it, that are thinking about just giving it up or quitting, or what do you have to say to them?
Well, once again, if I had all the answers, I would have schooled myself differently. You know, I would have made different decisions.
You're still a mentor, though, don't you?
You know, and I do,
that's
true. Probably more from a musical perspective than a business perspective, because I really am not a great businessman. But I often say to young kids who are getting into music or into the arts, I say, you've really got to love doing it. You've really got to want to do this, because the doing it is kind of the reward. You know, if you really want to make some money, there are much better ways to make money than being in the music industry. Mm-hmm. And as Grant Thomas, who was a great a manager we had back in the day and a great man, he said to me one day, but don't forget, the music industry remains a high-risk, high-return industry. So yes, you could squabble and kind of like fight for years to get somewhere, but you might just write that one song that suddenly gets legs and suddenly overnight you could make a lot of money. Now, money is not my...
doesn't drive you.
It doesn't drive me, but I'm concerned about it because I understand...
It's energy and we need it to live, like we need oxygen to live.
I grew up in music. My dad was a great musician. My mother was a great singer. And it was all around me all the time. And I just took on the family business because I loved it so much.
Right.
I couldn't imagine not doing it. So who I've become, for better or for worse, is largely driven by the fact that I love playing the guitar.
Yeah.
So... You know, I can kind of be at a crappy old gig, but once I've got the guitar and I start playing, it can kind of all come okay.
Yeah.
Because I love doing this.
You're one of those, you're one of those people I played with that you're cheerful. So like when you're having a good time, you tell your face about it, which I really like about you. You know, a lot of guitarists, like they'll play, and I'm not going to make noises with people that can't see this. They're playing head down, but they play. You can tell they love playing, but there's no face, and I believe that the face is your moneymaker. You know, and you've got that moneymaker face.
Well, I love looking at
money there. I look at you and go, there he is. Look how happy he is, having the best time.
I'm chipper, that's for sure. But I'm your classic Gemini. You know, like I can be as. Oh,
we're gonna start talking about star signs now. I'm gonna have to pour myself another whiskey.
I can be as kind of like depressed in my own self as I can be. Happy about everything. But,
I think they call that manic depression.
Yeah.
Not Gemini.
Bipolarism. But I think that we all have that kind of, we can all be that person.
Yeah.
But for me, my default setting is when I'm doing something I enjoy or I'm with people I enjoy, my default setting is I feel happy.
Yeah.
You know,
good.
I'm a classic overthinker. You know, I'm overthinking all sorts of stuff when I enter a room full of people I don't know.
So you're an introvert?
My partner calls me an introvert extrovert. I think that's the expression.
Have you done the Myers-Briggs personality profiling to know what you are?
No.
She'd love that, I reckon.
She probably would.
So, Alana, I reckon we should go through and do the Myers-Briggs personality test. Envy recommended it. Trust me, it's so good. So as an extrovert, I rate 100% as an extrovert.
Do you?
So when this all happened, I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I can't go out and touch 1,000 people a day.
I have a great friend. His name's Hugo T. Armstrong, and I love him like a brother. And he lives on the other side of the peninsula. He's run a few festivals and runs the blues train. And I always think you remind me of him. You're so outgoing and kind of easy to read. And I mean that in a nice way because I like that. I like to feel like I know what you're really saying
like
to me.
Like a colourful
There's no
book for a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
Yes?
He's the same as you. When lockdown hit him, he was like, I need to go out and be around people and see the people I love. And so he's really having a hard time. I'm sure. I love you, Hugo. As I believe you probably are in your own way.
Yep.
Whereas me, the introvert, extrovert, I just go into introvert mode and sit around and play the guitar and do stuff.
Yes,
and
so you're fine.
I'm perfectly fine.
See, I'm different. So what drives me is the people. So I'm driven highly by the response I'm going to get from what I'm doing. So to sit in a room, I love sitting in a room and playing, but I get lit up by that reflecting back at me through others. So it's difficult for me to get drive if I don't think that I'm going to be sharing that with somebody.
I get that. And tell me if I'm right when I say this, because when I talk about going to training, so doing a sport or an activity, so I've tried to do a little bit of stuff at home, but if I go to a class, I will put in 300% more than I possibly can doing it at home. I mean, is that not the measure of true drive, when you can actually be by yourself at home and do your workout or do your class, do your activity without anybody there to stimulate you?
It's really interesting, actually, because you mentioned training and going to a class. So I'm like that too. So my brother and I are living together, and I've set up a gym in my garage, and I go to the gym. Before lockdown, I was at the gym every day, at least an hour, pre-workout, heavy biceps, heavy weights, heavy everything. I love it. It's how I get my masculine on and my aggression out, because I'm very aggressive, and because I used to get that out through professional wrestling. I don't have an outlet for it. So I'm like, well, where do I get it out? It's through lifting and throwing things down. So
right.
I don't have that same drive here. First of all, it's cold as fuck where we live, up on the mountain in the Hollywood Hills, for everyone that's listening. It's cold. So I go to train in my garage, and I open the door and I'm like, not today. So I've got a spin bike, and this morning I trained exponentially hard on that. I have to train though. If I don't get myself into a place where I've got momentum, I don't do anything during the day. So if I get up and I don't train or I don't move, I don't have motion, I lose all momentum and power.
That makes sense.
But going to the gym, if I'm around people, I was telling my brother this the other day, he's a bodybuilder, he was just about to compete at IFBB before this all happened. I think that's the right Fed. So he moved here to live with me, and he was literally just about to go and compete bodybuilding.
So
and
he was in shape at a perfect...
like skin like this, like he'd pull it out, and his ab, like he had no water under his skin, and he'd pull it, and he'd just be like, oh. And I'm like, gee, how do you get like that? And he's just about to get on stage. I think I was about to open for Electric Mary at the corner, so we both had this goal, and we were getting ready for shows, and our friend Rick Butterworth had got me some more shows booked, so I was getting ready to do all that stuff, and then all of a sudden, COVID, and he's like looking at himself in the mirror like, oh my God, I literally just ate broccoli and tofu every day for 8 months for...
That's that's more than an anticlimax.
But then then I go to the gym, and the only reason I want to go to the gym, you're right, is to bounce off other people. So people's reaction to me when I'm training makes me lift heavier and work harder, and that group mentality. It's like being in a band versus playing acoustic. Do you think it's different?
Oh, absolutely, it's different. I mean, there's safety in numbers in some ways, because you've got the drive of others around you to pull you through, and I don't. Somebody once said to me about going to training. I've been in Taekwondo for a long time, and they said to me,
"Are you a black belt?"
Yeah, and so they.
I didn't mention that at the start, and he's a black belt.
Oh yeah. So, but I mean, those of you that train will know that now I'm a slack belt, because I don't go to training enough to really be, who I want to be.
I've got so many black belts, but nothing like you.
You can just buy them now.
You just get them. They're like at Kmart.
But like, there's a certain amount of ego. Like, I think that it goes with this territory, and I think that's being a performer. That's also a thing. And what Skyhook said, ego is not a dirty word, but I think that's actually true. A certain amount of ego that helps you. You know, you want to look like you can do this thing that you supposedly can do. Well, you don't want to go in there and be some, like pretender. So I think your ego helps you actually sort of make it a little bit more, because you are aware that there's eyes upon you or whatever,
and your own eyes upon you, like seeing you and yourself, like some pride. So I believe that ego it can run you, or you can be friends with it in a way that, like, oh, there's my ego, I can catch it. I'm catching it. Like, she's like, oh, you look good today, and then on the converse, or you put on weight, so you shouldn't leave the house. You know, there's ego in everything. But I think I've got an alter ego, you know, and I've actually named her, and that's who she goes. That's who goes out in the world and is me. So I have fun with it. Like, it's fun. Like, without ego.
It's interesting you should say that, because I've recently been revisiting a record I made 30 years ago. It's the 30th anniversary of this record when I was Jimmy the Human. I had this record that did
Jimmy the
really
Human.
well. So I can't believe it was that long ago. But the Jimmy the Human premise was he was an alter ego for me at the time, so that I could get up on stage and do the thing. I had other little thoughts and machinations about how I came by the name, but essentially I created a character based on myself, that I could go out and be this larger-than-life performer.
Like your best traits or your strongest parts?
Yeah, I mean, it was the guitar. I was the guitar hero kind of guy, and you know, I was a clown and all those kind of things on stage. But it wouldn't have been so easy to do had it have been just Jimi Hocking come out and do it. You know what I mean?
I know.
It would have been doable, but I was younger then too. I feel a bit sneezy all of a sudden, doggy. I feel a bit sneezy. No,
they say if you touch your nose, it means you're about to lie.
Is
so
it?
maybe you're just about to...
I have $1 million. I was going to say something much ruder than that. But
I know you were.
But the alter ego helped me at that age, which is like 25, really sort of get up and deliver and live out of my skin a bit at that time. So
when did you transition from the human to... I'm playing old Jimi Hocking, and that's fucking fine.
I can't even remember, because it was like a gradual shift where the Jimmy the Human days went from when I started playing acoustic folk cafes in the 86, something like that, right? And I was playing in a rock band then called the Astros or the Astro Boys, and I fancied that I was going to be some kind of Frank Zappa-esque kind of character, fusing kind of like these hard to play jazzy lines, but played through a heavy guitar and all this stuff. Anyway, I may have been a bit misguided, but it was a fun time for my creativity. Then I started playing these folk gigs, which were very, very much like a Billy Bragg kind of world. And the two musical personalities were so polarised that
Gemini.
I used to play this cafe in downtown, and I would just have the name Jimmy written on. I was nobody. They had a chalkboard. Who's on tonight? old mate, old girlfriend.
Jimmy.
And then Friday would be Jimmy. And so the guy that ran the place said to me, "You can't just be Jimmy. Like, it's just not."
You just can't be
You just
Jimmy.
can't do that.
It's too simple. How are we going to market Jimmy?
He said, "Well, we'd be Jimi Hocking." I'm like, surely we can do it some other way. Not that it wasn't a big deal. I just had this idea. So I started writing a different thing every time. Jimmy the guitar player. Jimmy the idiot. Jimmy is late.
Jimmy is late.
So it was Jimmy then something.
That's who you were
and
today.
Then Jimmy the skateboarder. Sorry, gang. So this all went on for ages until I came up with a quip on stage. As I had these long, preambles, sometimes humorous, I thought, and I was talking about being pigeonholed, and I was saying, I don't want to be pigeonholed. I'm just going to play music for everybody. I'll just play music for humans. I'll be Jimmy the Human.
Oh.
So I said it in that context. That was the gag. And then a couple of short years later, so 88 this was, my break in rock and roll really happened when I was invited, for want of a better expression, to fill in for Bob Spencer in the Angels when he broke his arm. So it was like a 2-month tour,
Cool.
the Liveline tour, and there were big theatre shows.
How'd you break his arm? Was it with the black belt?
No, he broke his arm colliding with Doc on stage.
Oh, Wow.
So they had some shtick that they would do on stage where Doc would end up, Bob would be up on top of a speaker box playing, and Doc would come over and pretend to kick the box over. They were having like a war of volume.
Wicked.
That was the shtick. But Doc came over very exuberant the second night of a major tour.
Awesome.
Kicked the box, which was empty, and down came Bob, smashing his guitar.
Doc won.
Doc won.
And so did you.
Yeah, so the next day the tour was to be cancelled, which is a big theatre tour, and I had a history with the band for a moment because I was on a list of people to be auditioned, and I didn't show. So anyway, that's a whole other story. But
I see what you did, like make them want me.
no, I was like 17. I thought, there's no way I'm going to be joining the Angels. They're going to get someone they know. You know.
Oh, so you just didn't believe in yourself?
No, it wasn't that simple. But
Okay.
But what happened was my name got thrown into a pot via a studio that I did some recording at, and Brent Eccles, who was then the drummer, he rang me and he said, "Look, I don't have time to mess around with this. Are you able to do this gig tomorrow night or not? This is no time for bullshit, you know." So I was, as cocky as I was also quite pragmatic. I grew up in music, you know, so I said, look, I think it's doable. I'll have a hard learn on my hands for a lot of this material, but I know this stuff and this stuff. So long story short, I'm on the road with the Angels. As we get to know each other on tour, which of course, the touring Tarago in those days, there was no flights barely involved. We drove from town to town.
Across Australia.
Shows. They were shows Tuesday to Sunday in those days.
So like a North Coast tour.
Yeah,
like
so you didn't just turn up on the weekend. In those days, you toured every night.
So good.
So it was a great time. It was a great tour, and I made friends with everybody in the band that have lasted all this time. But as me and Doc were getting to know each other, I told him about this Jimmy the Human alter ego, and he loved it. He said, "That's what you should do. That's Jimmy the Human. It's fantastic. It sounds great, you know." So he just decided to introduce me on stage every night as Jimmy the Human. That was it. He kind of pushed the point. So by the time the tour had ended, I had a management company at the time who then had some more negotiation power, but we kind of got like a publishing and record deal on the go.
Yeah.
I didn't have a band, by the way. It was just me.
Jimmy the Human.
So I kind of fudged together a band of friends to do this thing with me, and then we had this kind of minor hit record as well, and that was how the Jimmy.
And
the
this
Human
is the
rock
30-year,
record.
and this is the 30-year anniversary of Jimmy the Human.
Yeah,
And we can find. Where
record.
can we find that if we want to listen to it?
I've just put a lot of the live stuff up on Bandcamp. So it's you write Jimi Hocking, my name obviously, jimihocking.bandcamp.com.
Okay.
So
I'll chuck a link in for everybody.
Yeah, that'd be great because it's we're not all around anymore from that band, which is sad but true. But it was a great time in my life, and it's really been fun listening to those old songs again. You know, I hear the young Jimi Hocking coming.
You're
through.
so young though, like you are so young. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to explain. Like
Not
you don't
so much.
think you are, but I see you. Like when we've recorded together, when we rehearsed together, I just see you as like this boy. Like you're just so full of light and so full of like fun. You know what I mean? Like you're just fun.
That sounds nice. I like the sound of that.
All I want to do is be around people that are fun. I haven't got time for the other shit.
I live in my own skin, so it's hard for me to see it exactly. But I know I have that kind of elfin thing going on where I like doing childish things. I like, you know, there's still a skateboard in the boot of my car. You know, I still am attached to my youth in a lot of ways. So I think I'm a fun dad because I love to do dumb, you know, childish things.
We're talking about school before, so you're for any parents listening at home, this might be helpful. So your kids are going back to school next week?
They possibly were going back on Tuesday. So I've got young kids, so I'm an older dad, but my 5 going on 6-year-old is in early school years, and they've decided that next week they're going to reopen for schools. Now, we've had online schooling, which is great that they've been able to offer that to families and kids, but getting our child to focus on that has been a real challenge. So, and this comes back to what we were just talking about before about the group training idea.
Yeah.
I think it's the same.
Yeah.
You know, if he was in a classroom full of kids all focused on the teacher and everybody's doing it, sitting with their hair, you know, like, and they're doing their thing.
Yeah, not on their
then
phones.
they all do it.
Yeah.
But it was just us sitting in the lounge room and the TV's there, the train set's there.
And they're so used to disconnecting when they get home and playing that they're living in a playground and, you know, they're with, they're distracted.
So we've done as much of it as we can, but we're having to really crack the whip to get him to do it. And then, of course, by doing so, he hasn't enjoyed us, hounding him.
It just changes the role in the family, doesn't it? From fun time dad after school to like, oh no, now I've got to be the teacher and the dad and now I've got all these roles that I've got to fulfill.
That's parent life anyway. Like, one minute you're having fun with your kid, the next minute you're breaking them up because they're trying to pick at each other and hurt each other, and you're having to use your growling.
I love how you're
voice.
trying to explain parent life to me because I'm like still mothering myself.
Well, you know what? I at my age, I didn't think I was going to become a parent, so I'm relishing the experience even more because I become a dad at 50.
Wow.
So I'm a late starter, believe you me.
Wow.
But
show me a woman that could become a mother at 50. Like that's an anomaly. Like
it kind of is, but
bloody rock stars.
Men are lucky. Genetically, we're built that we could actually have that experience if possible. But it's not just that, of course. I mean, I didn't meet Alana. We've been together 10 years. But I had 10 years of absolute relationship debacles before that. My sister said to me, you've got to write that book. The girl that leaves you because a psychic told her. The girl that gets pregnant to her ex-boyfriend while you're on tour.
Oh.
The girl, like all these crazy, you can't make it
juicy.
up. It's crazy. So I was very deflated about relationships and really thought in my late 40s, well, that's it.
I'm done.
Not because I thought I was not a good person or something like that, but because the chances of meeting a quality partner at that age in this world were diminishing, and...
just keep the hopes of all us single people alive, Jimi Hocking. Thank you.
Well, for me, anyway, I don't know. I don't mean that. I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy about it, but just that was where I arrived, That was where I had concluded I was. I had a girlfriend in Massachusetts for a little while. That was too
Boston.
hard. That was a little hard to get to.
I can imagine.
But
imagine being in a long-distance relationship during COVID, by the way. Like, you're in a different country. I've got a girlfriend she's got a boyfriend in Africa.
Yeah,
and
really?
she's here and he's in Africa.
But see, that means their relationship hasn't changed at all then. They're still just on Skype sending each other.
Yeah, but still, like, they can't even if they want to see each other now. So that changes things. And when do we know we can even travel to see these people again? Like, could you imagine?
No.
How tough that would be?
That would be tough.
But you're probably touring Massachusetts too, so you're probably over there anyway.
No, actually, I probably shouldn't get into that story. But I was going back and forth to the States for a period of time over, 9 years or something like that. And that was the time that I left the Screaming Jets and I pursued the blues scene more heavily.
You tell me about that. You were talking about chords and how they tested you when you went up on stage, and they gave you like a bunch of chords that were just like, sevens and fifths or whatever, and they were just like, just go. And you're like, yeah, cool, I got this.
Well, that's especially in America, they talk a lot in the Nashville system, which is using chords as numbers. And people do it here. Like when I work with Jeff Atchison a lot and Lloyd, a lot of the people in the blues scene talk like that as well. It's a language. But in America, my experience was anyway that when I did the blues clubs, that was the language. And if you did a jazz gig, they just say, it's a 1-6-2-5. You don't worry about it, But if you don't know what that means, then this is way more challenging. I do know what that means. But my earliest experiences in the States were in New York. That was I decided if I was going to go to the States, I would go to the Big Apple. I had no kind of information to tell me what to do about it or how to go about it. I had a lot of people tell me, hey, if you come to the States, hit me up. I hit up a lot of people. I had virtually no response from hardly anybody.
How did you hit them up then? What year was this?
This would be 98.
Okay, so 98, how are you hitting people up?
Well, in those days I was sending email. That was how it was done. That was like the new thing in some ways, and that's how I could book things in America.
Yeah,
I started getting onto websites. I looked up clubs in New York and Manhattan and decided what looked like the kind of place that I could play. I looked up BB King's club. They offered me a gig over there playing at BB King's in New York when I needed a band. So I had to get over there and start the process.
How much fun is that though?
It was amazing.
Look what you've done. It's great.
But what happened was I started to get into this like anti-folk scene in Manhattan, which is like just basically solo acoustic performing, but it's a bit more edgy than
anti-folk. That's a genre.
Well, it is a genre. If you look it up now, and it's born of a comment that Bob Dylan made at the Newport Folk Festival. I believe that was 68 or 67. Might have to look that one up. But
Fact check.
he came out on stage with a Telecaster, an electric guitar, at a folk festival in the 60s, and the folkies were all disgusted that he was playing electric guitar and all booed at him. So he said, well, if you're all folkies, I'm going to be anti-folk.
Ooh.
So he made this statement, and then Joe Strummer, amongst many people, was one of the people who took that comment and ran with it. And this whole scene in the UK and in America was born of anti-folk clubs.
Wow.
Where you could play anything. So when you go and do the anti-folk scene, you might have a guy come out with an electric guitar and play a set, like a couple of songs, then a classic folky, then you might have someone just with a banjo or a guy with a tuba. Like, it's really bizarre sometimes. And they just
I
do
love
this
it.
thing. Like,
I love the variety in it.
Yeah. So it's kind of quirky, but it's really like awesome. Arnie DeFranco and people like that all came from that scene, But I was I went to Manhattan and did some anti-folk gigs because that was just my doorway in. And then I got a gig at CBGB's, at CB's Gallery. It's not there anymore, of course, but CB's, the famous club, which was a punk rock club essentially. They have an acoustic lounge, like an art gallery next door to the main room. And that was my first real gig in New York, was playing CB's. And so I played there a couple of times, and then that led to me being invited to play some blues clubs on Bleecker Street. And Mark Lizotte was actually very helpful to me. He was living there at the time. And
I'm a huge Lizotte fan.
So he was probably the only person who really sent me a useful reply when I sent out some emails to people.
That's nice.
So he was very helpful. So he was.
You can tell he's a good bloke.
He's a good dude, yeah. And another Gemini.
Oh.
And
so just half the time then.
Yeah. So I none of those really panned out for me, but it didn't matter. It gave me a compass to try and to get the thing going. But a guy called Duggins King, a great man who was working at a club called Terra Blues on Bleecker, he gave me a shot at his club, and he was impressed that I was from Melbourne, that I'd seen AC/DC play at a festival called Moomba, that I told him the story one day. And he said, well, come down to the club and get up and play in the late show, which just means the last set,
So not like, what time would that be, the late show?
That'd be midnight.
Midnight, okay.
So if the band playing 3 or 4 sets, they call the last set the late show. And
The Late Show with Jimi Hocking.
It's a trial by fire, make no mistake. And it's not that anyone's being mean to you or anything like that, but if you just can't cut it, you'll do one song and they'll say, thanks for coming, that was Archie Smith from Hoboken. No one's rude to you, but that's your shot. You've had your shot. And so I saw at least 3 or 4 people get up and play in the band before I did. And then I got up and played a tune, and I think the first night it was with a guy called Michael Powers. He's like the gun blues guy in New York. He certainly was at the time. And he says to me, it was ironic because I'm a huge B.B. King fan, and he says to me, the thrill is gone. I'm like, yeah.
Oh, thrill is gone, baby.
I know it really well. Like I know it lick for lick, So they started playing the intro, exactly right. And I started playing the licks that are on the record in the intro. And he looked at me gave me the big eyes, And I could see he was relieved that it meant that yes I could play, and yes I could play in that style like they wanted to play, So he's like, oh yeah, Mel, yeah, Jimmy's on the guitar.
I can imagine your face.
It was a great affirmation for me, apart from anything. And so it ended up. So I played the whole set. So I played that and whatever we played, and so that immediately led to gigs in New York. It was immediate. So the guy at the club said, "Oh man," he said, how long are you going to be here?" I was there 7 weeks, I think, and he said, "Well, next week I need a guitar player to play with Mo Holmes on the Friday night. Do you want to come and do it?"
Great. Isn't that great how it sort of snowballs and momentum? Yeah,
there was a lot of momentum. If you could really do it, you could get you could get elevated quickly in that scene. And but the gigs were not easy. And when I say that, I mean they weren't just here's what we're going to play. When I went and played with Mo Holmes, he's one of the Holmes brothers. They're quite elderly, and he's on a walking stick and everything. He doesn't have a set list. He just comes on the stage and starts singing.
Like B.B. King.
Yeah, kind of. And it's the Chuck Berry thing in a way where he just starts singing in any key.
Yeah.
Hasn't got a guitar, he just starts singing. And you've got to find what key he's in and then interpret the kind of chord progression that he's playing.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that, well then you can't get the gig.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
So in my world of teaching, I'm forever trying to impart this idea that your shot might be like mine,
Yeah.
where they say, "Can you do this thing?"
Yeah, you got to
And
be
and
ready.
if you say yes, then yes has to mean yes.
You've got to be ready. So that's why I learned in wrestling that every day's an audition when you're doing something at that level. Like you've
Yeah.
just got to be. You've got a shot, and you've got to be like, I'm ready. You can't be like, oh no, I'm not ready. Can I do it next week? No, it doesn't happen next week. It's
Yeah.
you've got to be ready to be ready now. There's no
Yeah.
other time. How exciting for you that would have been.
It was exciting, and in a way, I was lucky because I had the goods, but I didn't get thrown into a really heavy head cutting scene where people really want them, to shoot me down. They were quite open to me. I was this guy from Australia. I was affable, and I was like, yeah, he seems okay. Get him up. So it was kind of good. But I've heard stories where a friend of mine went over there and he went to do an audition with some band, and so he had like 3 songs to learn or something to this effect. And he went in and they said, okay, they named the song. He said, oh, so which one's that? I said, okay, that's it.
Oh wow!
That was enough.
Wow!
They said, hey man, you've had 3 months to learn this.
A moment, like in a moment. That's interesting, isn't it?
So it depends on the individual that you're working with, of course, but that was his experience.
I experienced that at a WWE tryout with a guy, and they had him in the ring, and it was like about 100 people, and we were getting all assessed by the trainers, and everyone's bumping and rolling and feeding and all the stuff that we've learned at training. But it's sort of like guitar in a way that it's like a technical thing where you front roll, you back roll, you side roll, you jump, you back, and you've got these things that you do. And the trainers go to this guy, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "Oh, I think my ankle." He's like, "Do you want to see the nurse?" And he's like, "Oh, I think I'll," and he jumped out the ring, and they were like, "Psst." You know what I mean? Because it was like the fundamentals, like they're the basics. Like this is the stuff that you should know.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why are you at this level?
That's right.
Like go home.
Yeah.
Yeah, leave it for the people that are actually dedicated and ready. So it's interesting.
Right. Yeah, it is interesting. And but the ambiguity in the music industry
Good
is...
word.
Sorry. You came to the boast. The tricky part of it is that in music it's a grey area. What one person thinks is ready or important skills, it's very subjective. And this is where there's a lot of, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is.
Is it ambiguity? Because we just did that one.
I know, that's kind of a good word. But, like if you talk to a rock musician about what they need to know, they'll say, I don't need to know all that. This is what I need to know. And I say, well, that's great, but you will never do that gig.
Right.
And they say, well, I don't want to do that gig. I go, that's fine also.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But if you want to have any more scope than just doing this, you need more information than that. And I get shot down a lot in some rock circles because I say, hey, can we play this interval or do that? And everyone's like, hey, dude, this is a rock and roll band or whatever. And I understand why that happens. It's kind of, in our band, it's kind of just like a fun thing that we do to me now because I'm the nerd in the band. But many
You're
times...
the nerd in the band.
Oh, I'm the nerd in the band, yeah. So, but many times when it comes to young students, I'll say to them, a lot of young kids like metal, for example, that's their currency. And I get it and I love it too. And then I say to them, but, here's the thing, I want you to learn this for me too. Let's learn these other 2 modes at least because... you're going to want to be able to play over more chord progressions.
Just fast
than
power
just
chords.
This,
Just 7 of them.
And they say, why? And I say, well, listen, for example, what if you are struggling to get your band up and running and you needed some money to make your first record, and then this artist over here, who's not a metal artist, says to you, hey, you're a good guitar player. Do you want to come and do a tour with me? I'll pay you $10,000. What if that happens? But you say, sorry, I can't. Because, hey, I only play metal, and plus, secretly, you can't really do that because you never learned to play properly in major keys, whatever.
Fair enough.
And then that is put on, it's like that could be something that really helps your career.
Yeah.
That could be a thing that you do that actually pays for your next record.
Yeah, right.
And at the end of the day, I say to them, so wouldn't you rather go and do that than go and work in a shoe shop?
Yeah.
I tell you what I'd rather do. I'd rather play the guitar for a living.
Yeah, that's right.
Any guitar.
And you do.
I mean, I have my favourites, obviously, so I can go away and do that gig or this gig. Then it's financed me to do the gigs that I want to do. I'm a guy who Chug used to say to me, I'm a self-made man. I play the kind of music I want to play. I have a collection of cool old guitars. I mean, I'm a success story. Tick. And that's because I grew up under a great musical influence of my father, who played in 60 bands a month.
Wow.
All different bands. you
Wow.
know, and that's just how was normal to me.
60.
Wow, no, that's an exaggerated figure. But, certainly more than just, hey man, I just play metal. This is what I do.
Fair enough. So you're saying like the versatility of a guitarist is what's missing these days. Like there's the people investing more time in maybe fundamentals and doing more lessons and growing themselves into different genres is missing. There's lots of segmented people.
I have to be careful how I approach this idea because I'm not trying to shut people down.
No, of course not.
I understand when you're young you have your favourite things, and all I'm suggesting is, technically speaking, if you learn the skills, just how to understand what chords are, what keys, what different modes you can use and why you would use them, stuff like that. If you understand that stuff, even if you don't know the language of it on paper, then more doors are open to you. That's what I'm really saying. And as a musician now, when I look at different styles of music, I only see them as different overdrive pedals. Like one music is this heavy, and so I need to take a heavy metal pedal and a Marshall or whatever. This one's more bluesy, I'll need the tube screamer and an AC30. This one's more jazzy, I'll need a clean amp and a jazz guitar. But the theory behind all of those musical styles I see as completely one thing.
Yeah.
All I'm doing is changing the output and stylistic approach of my playing, but really they are so connected. Country music, blues music, jazz music, all these things, they are cousins all the time. Well,
country music usually does involve a lot of cousins. Do you do you have a passion for teaching?
I'm sort of hot and cold sometimes because I'm fundamentally a lazy person who works too much. But yeah, I do now. I wouldn't have had even 15 years ago,
The patience for it, or just the drive for it, or the...
I think... I don't think you were aware for a long time of the value of your own knowledge because you accumulate it so slowly in many ways that you don't realise when you've got a bag of stuff that's worth imparting on somebody else.
So when you don't realise you're a mentor until someone's like, hey, and then you're like, oh, maybe hang on a second.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you get to that point, and like you've all this knowledge in you, like it's overflowing, and you could be giving it and imparting it to others and leaving a bigger legacy than just for you. What's up, freaks? And thank you for listening to the Envy Marshall Show. Here is my single, Drown, if you haven't heard it. Big thank you to Jimi Hocking for being on the show. More of him to come. You can find his record, 30 Years of Jimi Hocking, on JAMI Hocking at Bandcamp. I highly recommend you get over there and check that out. Live performances every week on my YouTube. Get over there to subscribe. Some of the country's best. Straight to your lounge room. Hell effing yeah. Thank you for joining us. Subscribe to my YouTube. Get over and check Jimi Hocking out. And the Screaming Jets fan page on Instagram. And I love you. More from Jimi Hocking coming up now. I'm going to put on my Screaming Jets jacket because I want to be just like Jimi Hocking. Where can we get these? Where can we buy these?
Actually, I don't know.
I love my jacket.
I don't know if the run's over. It's kind of not.
Is it over?
Well, they just did a run of them for that.
What about on the Screaming Jets Instagram? Can we get one on the Screaming? Look at us.
Well, they're certainly on the website.
I don't even mean to dress like you, and I've dressed exactly like you.
I just took my black jeans off. I'm like, should I wear my...
We're literally wearing the same outfit.
Twin.
How did that even happen? But yeah, so we were talking about...
No, hang on, what was I rolling on? I was talking about somehow the teaching thing, and then we were saying...
I can't look like you. Here we go, that's where they go. It's like a different TV show now. There we go, it's a whole different show. I've changed my outfit. It could be any day. You could have come back the next day. Who knows?
Yeah, I just now did the Charlie Brown look.
So I guess what we're getting at was being a mentor, and I think that when you're... I guess someone like you, because Screaming Jets, arguably one of the biggest rock bands in Australian history. Like amazing. I'm so lucky to be able to work for them. And a bit of backstory, obviously, we met through me working with Paul on my album, so we have the same producer. And I think we have to mention Steve, or he might get upset if we don't mention Steve. Hi, Steve.
I would get upset if we don't mention Steve.
How did you guys actually meet Steve? How did that come about?
Well, Steve came into the band at the very first album, which I was not on that first album. So I joined the band in '93. The band had started in '89. The same time I had my Jimmy the Human project, the Screaming Jets were born. We were all born in the same era.
Okay.
So we actually did gigs together. When the Jets first came to Melbourne, they opened for Jimmy the Human. So yeah, so I
No
met them
way.
around then. Yeah. So I was big in Melbourne. They were big in Sydney. They were breaking, this territory.
Newcastle.
So it's just the way it works, But we
Interesting.
so Steve was probably commissioned via the record company, I suspect, in those days.
Who was the label?
Ruart were the original. Was it Ruart? Yeah, Ruart was the original label, which was In Excess's personal record company.
Okay.
So Chris Murphy had started that. So the first couple of albums were through Ruart. I joined in '93, which was during the second album's birth.
Okay.
So the second album, Tear of Thought, came out, and the band were in America. That the album did not sell well, contrary to hardcore fans' belief. When the second album came out, I joined the band when the album was still very much flagging, and all the sales that were generated were from the tours that after Richie had left and I had started doing.
Yeah.
So I came in at helping hand, which is the
And
first
Richie wrote better, didn't he?
No, so
Oh.
Grant, who was the original guitar player, it was Grant and myself in
Okay.
'93. He wrote the song better.
Okay,
It was a
cool.
great song. So that was their first big hit that opened the doorways and the floodgates because it was a massive song.
Still effing is.
Absolutely. But Steve-O is the guy that really, they were a very naive bunch of guys from Newcastle by their own admission. And Steve was a very experienced producer and came in and really made that record so great. Steve came over here to work on Young Einstein. So he came out from England. He's an English gentleman. Came out to work on the Young Einstein soundtrack and met his lovely wife Jo. So then stayed, married to an Australian girl, and then we had the good fortune of having him do the first two albums. He didn't do the third album. We had a guy who was Robbie, old mate. He came out.
Robbie, old mate.
Robbie had worked with you too, and so he came out to do that one. So it's a very different sounding record. But when I first met Steve and he came in and did the World Gone Crazy record, which is the first record I did with him at the album, I said to David, why did this band even bother to use anybody else but this guy, Steve James?
He is brilliant.
He not only is he a brilliant producer, he knows the intricacies of the band, the nuances of everybody's personalities, and believe you me, I'm in a band with a group of great guys who are riddled with idiosyncrasies.
Yeah, and his manager's ego as well.
He's so good at it. One of my first questions anytime I do a recording project is Steve going to do this? Because that would be better, you know. So I think we've all resigned ourselves the fact now that he's pretty much the fifth member of the band. So
That's nice.
So Steve-O did those early records, and as I said before you now, as we've regrouped.
Yeah, what are you guys working
'cause
on?
It's 30 years since the first record. Now, I mean, it's a 30-year anniversary of the band last year of their inception of the band.
Yep. And I went to nearly every show.
You were awesome actually. So
Thanks.
So now we have like the 30th year anniversary of the All for One album coming up, which would be next year.
Amazing.
And so hopefully we're going to go out and tour that. But we've just done a couple of ISO tracks. So it's kind of like...
Yeah. I saw the Helping Hand one. That was cool.
So we did that one. We've got another couple of things we're working on behind the scenes right now. It's just something for us to do to keep the artistic juices
Is there a new
going.
Screaming Jets album coming maybe, or are we looking forward to something like
We
that?
were about to go to the studio and commence work on that album this May, the start of May. Had this virus not come along, I'd be sitting here talking about the album we would be making or just finishing.
Well, I'd be touring.
So it's one of the things. We had all the studio time booked, and then we were immediately going to go back out on the road again and do a tour from the middle of May through to nearly July.
Wow, yeah. Cool.
All that fell over, of course.
Yeah.
So we're having a weekly Zoom meeting just to touch base, talk about some ideas. Paulie and Scotty started to put ideas together songwriting-wise while we were touring last year. David and I wrote a couple of things together, but I think we all kind of like it when Paul writes the body of the stuff, because even though, you know, he's an eccentric character to work with, his writing style is a very much a signature part of the sound of the band, we feel. So
when it sort of veers off of that track, it loses sort of like that feeling that you guys are used to, which is
I would never say it's that harsh, but I just think that we like the way Paul writes for the band.
Yeah.
You know, and I
He's a genius.
he is.
I worked with him too, and he wrote some great crackers for me. So with me, so that's
Yeah. So there you go. And
he polishes my turds. That's what I'm going to say.
He's just good. He's just good with that stuff. You know, and we all have our little departments that we're really good at in our world between the group of us. We've never really said you're this and you're that and you're the other. But I think it's kind of, as the dust settles over the years, we have our things that we're all good at, and we all know. You know, it's like if this thing comes up where it's, you know, someone's going to get up and play on the spot, and it's going to be, maybe that's my department. If we need some great production done, some videos and stuff, well, Scotty's all over it, you know. We need somebody to write a song for. Paul is the guy. Where, you know,
so you think that's what keeps a band successful and together for a long time, other than the success, is sharing the roles, working as a team, everybody pulling their weight, everybody being good at certain things, and
it's a beautiful mayhem. Being in a band, and I think that history shows us when you put together a super group. So you get all these people together who are all amazing players, and they're all, you know, like highly technical. Well, often the band's really boring
at different gigs, aren't they?
Well, it is, and we have all this push and pull within the contrast of the personalities, and really, I think it creates good art. So I think when you adjust the balance of what we have between us. If there's too much silliness or too much nerdiness or too much technical or too much not enough flamboyance, if you don't get that mix right, well then we don't create a good record.
No, that's right.
So I think that
I really liked Automatic Cowboy. I really liked
great track.
And was it what the album was Chrome?
That
was great. Chrome. Yeah, I really liked that album. That was Steve, right?
So that was Steve, and that was a great record because it was a very cathartic record for us as a group, because we'd got to a point where, you know, we were paying off some debts from the past. There's a lot of politics behind the scenes that people are not aware of.
Yeah, totally.
You know, like, of course. And
you're a business. You've got overheads.
That's right. And we have a history of good and bad deals, you know, that we've had to deal with. And I think we were sort of sitting around thinking, will we even make another record? Is it a thing that we even want to do in this current climate? People aren't buying CDs like they used to. You know, we won't get the radio support, you know, we didn't think at the time that we used to get, because we're not young and up and coming. So do we do it? So we decided to use our own money in the end, make this record. We got the team back together. We felt like we were in a good place together as a group of guys. We got Steve, you know, to come back into the helm. And what happened was, by the end of making Chrome, we all liked it so much that we didn't care if people got it or not.
It's a good record. It's a great record.
It was like, you're sure we want to sell enough to cover our asses and all the rest of it, but it's just this great record. You know, like it's just, and for us, it made us feel like we still had the goods. We still could be creative from the grassroots of making a record.
Yeah, all the way to the end.
All the way to touring it. And it was just a good life lesson for us in an invisible kind of way.
I remember I wrote like a little note on a piece of paper, because when you played with me, so I was lucky enough to have Scotty, Paul, and you play with me at a gig. Awesome, so blessed. And I wrote a little note on a thing that I was going to say before the show. Just, you know, it was like, coming off the back of their Kiss show.
Which never happened.
You know. So I feel like Kiss cancelling created COVID, because like as soon as Kiss cancelled, like the music industry just went, oh, and then it just, you know, everyone just got like, it was like a momentum of depression from everyone just being like, really, and then now everyone's just like,
I can see that.
Gene Simmons.
Yeah, I can see that. But you know, I don't know, but also our dollar was really starting to get, you know, flag, you know, to diminish. And I think a lot of things for overseas, because they weren't the only band. I think Metallica and the Stones, there was a whole bunch of people.
Yeah, it was just like a snowball of people were just deciding they're not coming.
And
thanks.
I think that we live in a different age now. You know, there's a lot of contractual things now where if there's not a certain amount of tickets pre-sales before a certain date, promoters will pull the pin because they're not prepared to take the risk.
It's
often
huge.
It isn't the band.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's a huge risk in the in-between world. So there's so many.
It costs a lot of money to put a show on that people don't realise when they're in a ticket price, and people complain about ticket prices. And I think when I did a post and Mark Diesel shared it, it was about not getting refunds. Like at the moment, like people are for shows that are outstanding or whatever, a lot of people are making a massive deal about getting refunds on their tickets. And there's two camps. And I'm just saying to people, just don't get a refund. Like, just think about the money and the time and the effort these artists have put in and, all that stuff too. And people are just like banging at the door of getting a refund, not realizing what's actually happened to even get that show to think about starting in the first place. So I've been an advocate for no refunds. Not me, but for other people.
I think that's a good thing, but it depends on the situation. Every situation is different. If a refund is available, well then that's reasonable to ask for one.
Reasonable,
because of the insurances and stuff like that. But a lot of people are going to go under as a result of the cancellations. It's not. We're not in a great place, and. A lot of people have been asking me behind the scenes about what I feel about these free online gigs and stuff. And I started off just feeling like they were a great idea because it was a great way to keep in touch with people and people were bored. But as the debate has raged at my house, I'm now in two camps of my own. On one hand, I'm worried that we are further devaluing what we do by rushing off the minute that you can't see a concert and saying, it's all right, don't worry, we'll do one for free. It's
devaluing yourself. And also, it was, I think the Spotify CEO is worth $53 billion or something. And meanwhile, what is he, 6 cents in a dollar or something split between eight, it's just, it's insane.
It's insane. I mean, these were the record deals of the 80s, that are now reflecting in Spotify splits, I think my first record deal in the 80s, I made 9% of 13% of every record sold. I mean, it's barely even an accountable figure, so...
okay, so it's not like it's different. It's just on a different platform.
It's in a different platform. And I think that there was this time where the record companies were trying to work out how they could take more control over this. And by the way, this isn't necessarily a record company beat up because everybody has their own agenda and they have shareholders and there's a whole bunch of things going on. There's a whole bunch of machinations that we've now set up that are kind of out of control. And you can't just come in and sort of pull one pin out and say, it's this, it's the record companies, because, no,
it's not.
We're all responsible for how things went because we also demanded things cheaper, like fast food. We demand cheap food, so don't expect it to be good quality food because you want it so cheap.
And it's like you shouldn't give something away for free when you're good at it, because as soon as you start giving that stuff away for free, you start to train people into just expecting this for free. And it's like we live in a different world. But
this is the argument. Yeah. And I mean, I think there's a balance to be achieved. I've done a bunch of guitar tips and stuff online, but I've intentionally not done just like, here's a free performance for me every Tuesday night, like I used to do a free gig up the road.
Did you?
Well, up in the city.
We're neighbours.
Yeah. But the thing was, even in that climate of doing free gigs, I would have a lot of people in the industry say to me, "You shouldn't do so many free gigs because do you think that Diesel does all those free gigs? Do you think that Lloyd does all those?" No. So so you've got to create your own. What you're continuing to do is just let people think that's what you're worth to them. They'll go and this isn't, once again, this comes across a bit half baked. But the point I'm trying to make is whatever precedent you're going to set will continue for a long time after you've set it. So it's a very difficult thing to break away from. And I often think about the streaming thing, what Lars, from Metallica, was very much against the platforms of Napster and stuff like that back in the day. And everybody shot him down, like, hey, man, you're a millionaire. You can afford to give this away. Screw you. That was the attitude of many, many people. But you know what? 20 years later, he was right. It did devalue the industry. It did mean to people, I'd say to young guys who's come say to me at a gig, I'm learning your guitar solos. And I'd say, I've got that CD here. They go, no, we've got Spotify. We don't need it. So I can't even sell them a CD. I can't even give them a CD because they've got Spotify. So yes, Spotify is saying, of course, we share to our artists. but every title costs me $60 a year to keep it on Spotify, in the platform, and their trickle down figure is so not minuscule that it basically just keeps me in it. So really, all I'm doing is feeding their machine. So I'm not sure if it's a great way for an independent like me. So, if I was selling millions of CDs,
yeah, totally.
Maybe.
If you were independent, it's selling in millions. Absolutely. So then, what's the right thing? What do you think? I mean, from an independent perspective, like, what's really great about this? Like, is it a good time for artists to start? Is there still a way for us to reach? I think this is the way. I think it's online, it's being clever, it's holding a bit of stuff back. It's not playing heaps of gigs. It's, having an online presence, but like you were talking about before about said, don't pop, don't blow your load before we start on camera, because if we start chatting now, then we're just going to miss all the good stuff because we're going to be excited when you walk straight in the door, blah, blah, blah. So maybe it's just about holding back your load. Great way to put it. Holding it back.
I'll think about that later.
Holding it back and just trickling out little bits and pieces, and just, it's like what those life coaches and those online coaches do, free 30-second consultation or free or free. Yeah, and then
beyond that, you've got to pay.
And then you can watch 8 seconds of this porno on Pornhub, but then we want your credit card details. Not saying I wouldn't know. I don't know.
What is it? Clown Hub.
Clown Hub. So not that I would know. So I'm just saying, there's got to be a way that that this, because right now there are a lot of millionaires being made in this industry. It's like, what are they doing? And I'm just saying that a lot of people are, they're setting up from home. They're streaming little bits. They're putting pieces out. They're not putting everything out, but their content is continuous. But you're not giving everything away for free. So it's a very interesting time. But I think it can be successful.
I once again, I know I can sound like I'm coming on strong about this debate, but I don't have the answer. So if you were to say to me, tell me emphatically which side of the fence do you sit, the answer is still I don't know, because I don't have all the data. I don't know the outcomes of long range things yet. We're living in an age which is all new. So I believe.
Do you think the government's overreacted a bit though to it? Like, do you think the restrictions are a bit ridiculous? I think they're fair.
I want to say maybe they have, but at the same token, if you have a bunch of school kids you're looking out for, and one kid jumps off the edge of the balcony and hurts himself, that these 26 kids won't do that because they're all smart kids. But there's always one idiot who will do it. So you've got to make a rule. No one can go on the balcony, because you don't know who the kid is going to be. He's going to jump off and break his leg. So, but
also, don't we a little bit believe in Darwinism? Like a little bit, like. Come on, like if you're gonna be the kid that jumps off the bridge, we don't want you. Humanity's going to survive because of the strongest and the most adaptable and the most clever, not because we take care of the weakest ones the whole way. I mean, that's just.
I totally want to agree with you, because Darwinism, the Darwin Awards, is one of my favourite things to watch. Right, but there's this duty of care, because that kid jumping off the balcony who's a dickhead now, in 4 years' time, might be a different person.
Don't you think that duty of care is what's keeping? I don't know. It's like we're not, and it's probably pretty controversial, but we're taking care of the ones that really, from Herbert Spencer's Darwinism perspective, should be dead.
Yes.
And we're looking after the ones the weak, which is fine. But then by doing that, we're creating this society of people that probably 80 years ago, 90 years ago, they wouldn't be here, and there was no, it's hard to explain, but this turnover of people, like maybe we should let that person just.
Once again, all I have is a reflection of what's going on. I don't have the answer.
No one does.
But certainly when somebody does something really stupid and you think, I'm really sorry that happened to you, but you know what? If you're going to do something that stupid,
I just really wanted to make toast in the bath.
There's a cause and effect,
I really wanted toast, and I really wanted to have a bath, and I wanted to do them at the same time, and I'm really. You got to be careful. I mean, I'm not that person.
Hand me the toaster. I'll hold it up.
Thank you, Drew. Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to hearing a 30th anniversary stuff. I had a look on Bandcamp today. You have to get the app, don't you? If you have to.
No, it's just online. You can just get it. Go to their kind of web presence online. It's just a website. I think you have to get the app on your phone, perhaps, or maybe the case is there's an app available. You can. So
Bandcamp's kind of like, because I think I've been on Bandcamp, but I was on SoundCloud too. Right. So it's like kind of like a Spotify-ish type thing, but the artist gets more royalties. Is that how it works?
It's a better split, and I think that the general indicators are that the people who are kind of looking at Bandcamp as a thing, both to purchase and both to upload, are more in your independent
Okay, cool.
thinking.
Great.
You know, so if you look at some of the titles on Bandcamp, some people will have them for free, but it'll say, "But you can pay what you feel." You know, like
donate.
So you can donate. So some older titles might be like just up there. You can listen to them straight off the Bandcamp streaming site. So yes, you can just listen, but I think the general feeling is it's more like slightly left of the mainstream ideal, and people understand the premise is that it's good to kick in for the artist.
Do you want to tell us what song we should be listening to on there, or are they all your favourites?
Well, that's a good. See, they're old songs. So when I started out doing these folk cafe gigs in the 80s, I made an independent cassette.
Woo!
Even then, cutting edge. That was the very first Jimmy the Human offering. The first one was called Serious Stuff, Volume 1, I remember. Then I did one called The Ultimate Bootleg, and then the something other bootleg. I don't know.
My first ever cassette was Eternal Flame by the Bangles.
Oh, good choice.
Thanks.
So a lot of that stuff I've just put up, kind of to test the waters. But I had a lot of messages come up recently because people have been posting these influential albums things that are
seen that.
They're coming up on social media. And my Jimmy the Human album, which was called No Turning Back,
No Turning Back.
That has come up many, many times.
Ooh.
People have tagged me in it many times. Now, we didn't sell 100,000 copies. We sold more like 10, you know, but it seemed to be a significant audience. And to this day, I have like really cool people come and say to me, who are in other bands, say, hey man, your first album was like one of my first records.
That's so fucking
like, it's really
cool.
nice, you know. And when I was 32, that might have been lost to me a little bit because I was. If people come and said something like that to me, I might not be sure how to take that. You know, like, is this real? Like
you're pretty humble.
No, it's not. That's just the interpretation of reading it from people. Whereas now, in my 50s, and people come and say to me, you know, that was, you know, Wally from the Meanies telling me, oh man, you were the first gig I ever saw. Gatesy from Tripod saying to me, I love the song Robot Man so much I had the lyrics written on my folder in school.
Oh wow!
You know, like cool stuff like this. You know,
Robot Man.
What's that nice girl from Frente saying to me, oh, we used to come and see you every Wednesday at the Armadale Hotel when you used to play those songs.
Nice.
I'm like, really? Like, I had no idea these people were out there, but they all went on and flourished in their own ways.
Nice.
And had their own.
So you're an
careers,
influence
you know.
on people, and
Who knew?
do you want to play something for us from that?
Well, let's think then.
Do you want to have a little tingle? We can
I
zoom.
don't have one handy.
We can zoom in. I've got my producer Leah Gallen here from the Sound Lab. She's doing a bang up job.
The lovely Leah.
We'll talk about Leah Gallen and her sound school, the Sound Lab, where your children can be just like Jimi Hocking.
Well,
With a bit of work,
with
input,
a bit of luck.
bit of luck, bit of input. What's this one called? How lucky are we? I'm going to pour a whiskey and have a listen to Jimi Hocking. We're
I'm
blessed.
still live.
What are you going to play for us, Jimmy? How lucky are we?
Well, maybe it makes sense to play this old tune. I wrote this song in the very early 80s, maybe 82. Mm-hmm. It's one of my earliest songwriting efforts, and it was in the days when I was consumed by the idea of making songs that had 3 or 4 parts. They often went for 15 or 20 minutes, much to the horror of the band.
Nice.
And this was a part of a trilogy which is all about the idea of a robot evolving into a bigger robot. Sounds like a done-to-death idea now, but in those days I thought it was quite interesting. And eventually becoming a real person. And the last part of it all, which I'm not going to play, the real person dies and becomes a god sort of thing. So it's all the way through. But this is one part of that trilogy. Let's have a go. I can see you're different to me. Your skin looks soft to feel. Mine is made of steel, and you don't realize your body can entice, and you put me in a state I can't communicate. I am a robot man. I am what you program inside a metal shell. I was assembled on a line in 2099 when science hit a peak. But still I cannot speak, and you look into my eyes, expressionless and wide. Oh, can't you understand that I long to be a man inside my metal shell? I can feel as well. I am what you program. I am a robot
Jimi Hocking.
High drama, I know,
Nice,
high drama.
we like it. Jimmy, you're a bloody godsend. Thanks for coming out. What do you think at the end of this, if we just go back, like, what's going to be good that's come of this COVID thing? What do you think?
Well, my hope is that people who are now discovering the online world and performances and stuff like that online, as we've just discussed, will start to see the value of buying them online rather than just like expecting them to exist for free in that environment.
Good.
So maybe we can tweak the thinking of
I think
people.
so.
Because I've seen some funny comments in my Facebook stream where people have been saying, "Oh God, it's another bloody open mic night on a Friday night." You know, like, so every man and his dog has got an acoustic guitar doing a concert, which is great, and it's great fun that they're doing it. But what did a girl write the other day? I really got a laugh at it. She said, "My timeline is just full of push-up competitions and open mic nights." Like,
I know people are getting unfollowed so quickly. You have to be really, really like sporadic and quality and high
I
quality.
think better
with your...
quality is the key.
Yeah.
So you know, when we did our little isolation track, we did Helping Hand. We actually got Steve on board, of course, to mix it properly and make it sound like a presentable track, like something you want to listen to, as opposed to He's Old Mate Again.
Yeah, that's right.
You know.
Yeah, that's right. So, you know, speaking of quality, there's we're good? There's no one as quality as Jimi Hocking. So thank you so much for coming. It was a pleasure to have you.
Nice
And
to meet you.
Jimi Hocking and his record, 30-year anniversary, Robot Man. There'll be a link in the bio, and you were cool if I put some of your music in the video to
sure,
phase
absolutely.
out.
Yeah.
Not all of it, just a little bit, obviously.
Yeah. I've made 15 albums. You won't have time.
Oh my God, 15 albums.
They're not all any good, but a couple of them.
Thanks for coming, Jimmy. Bless. Bye.
Walking through the room, I can hardly see a thing. I wonder why my eyes hurt. I spy you in a chair, I can almost see your bra. I guess you want some clean dirt. Don't walk up to me, cause I know you smell good. You don't have to turn it on. Why don't you tell me what you want? Baby, I can help, but in the morning I know you'll be gone. I'm doing fine, but I'm walking in the quicksand. I'm doing fine, but I'm walking in the quicksand. Yeah!
Yeah, what a riff. This one time at Bandcamp. Don't forget to get over to Jimi Hocking's Bandcamp to download this song and other songs. You can donate, you can listen live. Thank you so much for joining me on the Envy Marshall Show. Do not forget to get over to my YouTube. If you want to see video footage of this, you can subscribe at Envy Marshall at YouTube. Find me on Instagram for memes and my dog and more rock and fucking roll. I love you guys. See you next week. Bye.
I'm doing fine, but I'm walking in a quicksand. I'm doing fine, but I'm walking in a quicksand. Yeah! And I'm tired of these girls. They're thinking that they got it all. But they know I'm easily tempted to get my back right up against the wall.